The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning at the United Earth Defense Headquarters. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and gleaming silver eyes. Behind him, other alien species sat in raised seats, looking down at the human delegation with barely hidden smirks. "Greetings, humans," the blue alien spoke, his voice translated through advanced software. "I am Head Commissioner Reed of the Galactic Games Council. After much discussion, we have decided to extend an invitation to Earth for the upcoming Galactic Arena Games." General Thompson, the head of Earth's military command, straightened in his chair. This was humanity's first invitation to compete in the most prestigious tournament in the known galaxy. Every 50 years, warriors from hundreds of species gathered to prove their worth in combat. "We understand your species is still developing," Reed continued, his upper arms making dismissive gestures. "Therefore, we have placed Earth in the lowest tier of competition. This should give your warrior a fighting chance, however small." The aliens in the background didn't bother hiding their laughter now. One of them, a creature that looked like a walking crystal formation, whispered something that made the others shake with amusement. "We accept," General Thompson said firmly, even as his advisors shifted uncomfortably beside him. "Excellent. You have 1 Earth month to choose your warrior. Choose wisely." The transmission ended with what sounded suspiciously like more laughter. Word spread quickly. Earth needed a warrior, someone who could represent humanity in front of the galaxy. The trials began immediately, with soldiers, athletes, and fighters from around the world competing for the honor. That's when Jack Stone walked into the selection arena. He wasn't particularly tall or muscular like many of the other candidates. His brown hair was cut short, and his face bore the weathered look of someone who had seen too much combat. His most striking feature was his eyes, gray and calm, but with an intensity that made even hardened veterans step back. "Name and background," the selection officer said, barely looking up from his tablet. "Jack Stone, former Special Forces, current occupation, underground fighter." The officer's head snapped up. Everyone knew about the underground fighting circuits, illegal battles where soldiers and fighters tested themselves against each other using minimal rules and maximum risk. Jack's trial was scheduled for the end of the day. The selection committee had already seen hundreds of candidates demonstrate their skills against combat robots and virtual reality scenarios. Most performed well. Some performed exceptionally. Then Jack stepped into the arena. He didn't just fight the combat robots. He dismantled them. While others had showcased strength or speed, Jack demonstrated something else entirely. He showed patience, letting the robots wear themselves down. He used their power against them, turning their advanced systems into weaknesses. When he finally took them apart, it wasn't with brute force, but with precise strikes at crucial points. In the virtual reality scenarios, he didn't just win. He changed the rules of engagement. When faced with a stronger opponent, he turned it into an endurance match. When confronted with a faster enemy, he forced them into confined spaces where speed meant nothing. "This is who we need," General Thompson said, watching Jack complete his final trial. "Someone who doesn't just fight, someone who adapts." 2 days later, the Galactic Council received Earth's choice of warrior. The alien representatives reviewed Jack's basic biological data and combat records. Their response was immediate and dismissive. "This is your champion." Reed's hologram asked, all 4 arms crossed. A basic human with no genetic enhancements. No cybernetic upgrades. Not even basic neural implants. "Yes," General Thompson replied simply. "Well," Reed said, his silver eyes glinting with amusement, "at least your species will learn its place in the galaxy quickly. We'll see your warrior in 2 weeks." As the transmission ended, Jack stood quietly in the corner of the room. His gray eyes hadn't left the spot where Reed's hologram had been, and a slight smile played at the corners of his mouth. The aliens wanted to teach humanity a lesson. They were about to learn one instead. The transport ship carrying Jack Stone docked at the massive space station known as the Arena. Through the viewing window, the structure looked like a giant metal flower floating in space, its petals made of shimmering steel and crystal. Each petal housed different alien species, while the center held the actual fighting grounds. Jack stepped out of the ship carrying only a small bag. Other warriors arrived with teams of support staff and crates of equipment. A thin alien with gray skin and large eyes approached him, holding a digital tablet. "Human warrior Jack Stone?" the alien asked, blinking rapidly. "I am Tix, your assigned guide. Your quarters are, in the outer ring." Tix's voice held a note of pity. As they walked through the station's corridors, Jack observed everything with quiet intensity. Warriors from across the galaxy filled the halls. Some floated instead of walking, others moved on multiple legs, and a few seemed to shift forms as they moved. Most of them glanced at Jack and then quickly looked away, hiding smirks or making dismissive gestures. "Here is the training area," Tix announced, leading Jack into a vast chamber. "Each warrior gets 2 hours per day to practice." Though in your case, the alien trailed off, noticing Jack's focused expression. The training area was filled with advanced technology. Warriors practiced with energy weapons, gravity controls, and holographic opponents. A massive alien covered in plates of natural armor was lifting weights that could crush a car. Next to him, a serpentine creature practiced high-speed strikes that broke the sound barrier. "Where can I run?" Jack asked. "Run?" Tix seemed confused. "We have movement simulators if you wish to." "No, I need space to run. Real running." Tix led him to a circular track that wrapped around the training area. It was meant for testing speed enhancements, but no one was using it. Most warriors considered physical running primitive. For the next 3 days, Jack spent his training sessions running. Other warriors laughed openly now. They called him the Primitive and made bets on how quickly he would lose his first match. On the 4th day, Jack finally approached the weapons rack. The advanced energy weapons hummed with power. He picked up each one, tested its weight, and then put it back. "Is there something wrong with the weapons?" Tix asked nervously. "No," Jack replied. "Just needed to know how they feel, how they work." He went back to running. A week before the tournament, the defending champion arrived. Known only as the Ultimate, he was a bioengineered warrior created specifically for arena combat. His skin rippled with enhanced muscles, and his eyes glowed with artificial power. When he passed Jack in the training area, he didn't even bother to look down. That evening, Jack sat in his small quarters, watching recordings of previous tournaments. Tix found him there, surrounded by holographic displays showing different fighting styles. "Why do you watch these?" Tix asked. "You cannot copy their enhanced abilities." "Not copying," Jack said, his gray eyes reflecting the light of a particularly violent match. "Understanding." "Understanding what?" "Their limits." Jack pointed to various warriors in the recordings. "That one relies on his energy shield. He gets tired quickly. That one's neural enhancements make him think faster, but he can't handle sustained damage. The Ultimate." Jack paused the recording on the champion's face. "He's never fought a long match. Never had to." Tix stared at Jack with new interest. "You've been studying them all this time?" Jack nodded. "Humans are persistence hunters. We survived by understanding our prey, following them until they couldn't run anymore. Some things don't change." For the first time since arriving at the station, Tix didn't look at Jack with pity. There was something else in the alien's large eyes, a glimmer of understanding, maybe even hope. The next morning, as Jack ran his usual laps, other warriors noticed something different. He wasn't just running anymore. He was hunting. The first day of the tournament turned the arena's central chamber into a festival of light and sound. Thousands of alien spectators filled the floating viewing platforms. Their excited chatter echoed through the massive space as they waited for the opening matches to begin. Jack Stone stood in the preparation chamber, wearing simple black fighting clothes. Around him, Other warriors checked their energy weapons and activated their enhancement systems. The air hummed with power. "Your first opponent," Tix said, showing Jack a hologram. "A warrior from the gas giants of the Orion system. His species can control electricity." The alien paused. "You can still choose a weapon from the armory." Jack shook his head, stretching his muscles with calm focus. "Won't need one." The announcement system crackled to life. First round, lower tier. Human warrior Jack Stone versus Spark Lord Vex. Laughter rippled through the crowd as Jack entered the arena. His opponent floated in on a cushion of crackling energy, his cloud-like body glowing with power. Head Commissioner Reed's voice boomed through the speakers. "Begin." Vex immediately launched bolts of electricity at Jack. The human didn't try to block them. He moved. His feet carried him in an odd pattern across the arena floor, never staying still long enough to become a target. The crowd's laughter turned to confused murmurs. "Stand still, primitive," Vex thundered, filling the air with lightning. Jack kept moving, his gray eyes locked on his opponent. With each dodge, he got closer. With each blast, he learned more about Vex's patterns. The gas giant warrior began to pulse faster, using more energy with each attack. "He's tiring him out," Tix whispered from the viewing area. Just like he said. After 5 minutes of constant attacking, Vex's glow began to dim. His lightning came in shorter bursts. That's when Jack struck. He rolled under a weak bolt and came up inside Vex's defense. Before the alien could retreat, Jack's fist struck the central mass of his cloudy form, right where the being's energy core pulsed. Vex collapsed into an unconscious heap, his electricity completely drained. Silence filled the arena. Then one of the aliens in the crowd spoke up. "He didn't use any weapons. How did he?" "Winner, Jack Stone," the announcement system declared. Jack's next match came 2 hours later. His opponent was a warrior encased in powered armor, standing 3 times his height. The crowd had grown larger, curious about the strange human who fought without weapons. This time, Jack didn't wait. He charged straight at the armored giant, sliding between its legs as it tried to grab him. Before the alien could turn, Jack was climbing up its back, his fingers finding gaps in the armor plating. "Get off," the warrior shouted, trying to reach behind himself. But Jack had already found what he was looking for. The suit's main power coupling. One sharp twist, and the massive armor froze in place. "Impossible," the warrior shouted from inside the powerless suit. How did a primitive know about the design weakness? "Watched you train," Jack said, climbing down. "You always protected that spot." By his third match, the viewing platforms were packed. Jack faced a warrior who could create duplicates of himself. 20 copies of the alien surrounded Jack, each armed with energy blades. The human closed his eyes. The crowd gasped, thinking he had given up. Instead, Jack tilted his head, listening. When his eyes opened, he moved with devastating precision. One by one, he struck the copies, finding the real warrior by the sound of his breathing. The alien didn't even have time to create more duplicates before Jack's strike knocked him unconscious. In the highest viewing platform, Head Commissioner Reed gripped his seat with all 4 hands. "This isn't possible. He's just a basic human." Below, Jack calmly walked out of the arena. As he passed the weapons rack, several other warriors stepped back. They weren't laughing anymore. In their eyes, something new had appeared: fear. Tix met him at the preparation chamber. 3 matches, 3 victories, without weapons or enhancements. How? Jack took a drink of water. "Humans don't need fancy weapons," he said quietly. "We are the weapon. They just haven't realized it yet." Word spread through the arena like wildfire. The human warrior had reached the mid-tournament matches without using a single weapon or enhancement. Some called it luck. Others whispered about hidden technology. But as Jack Stone stepped into the arena for his next match, everyone knew this fight would be different. His opponent was Lord Crystal, a being made entirely of living crystal from the Diamond Worlds. 8 feet tall, with a body that sparkled like cut gems. He was famous for never taking damage in combat. His crystal form could withstand energy weapons, and physical attacks simply bounced off his faceted surface. The human will break himself trying to punch Crystal. Someone in the crowd laughed. Jack stood calmly in the arena, studying his opponent. Lord Crystal raised his crystalline arms, which sparkled under the bright lights. I will make this quick, primitive. Your soft flesh cannot hope to harm me. Begin. The announcement system boomed. Lord Crystal charged, his crystal body ringing like chimes as he moved. His first punch could have shattered concrete, but it hit only air as Jack stepped aside. The human didn't counterattack. He simply moved, watching. Fight back. Lord Crystal demanded, launching a series of powerful strikes. Each time, Jack evaded with minimal movement, his gray eyes focused on the crystalline being's structure. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Lord Crystal's attacks became stronger, more frustrated. Stand still and fight. I am fighting, Jack replied quietly, still moving. You just don't see it yet. 15 minutes into the match, something changed. Lord Crystal's movements began to slow. His crystal body, which had been flashing with inner light, started to dim. Small cracks appeared where he had struck the arena floor trying to hit Jack. Impossible. The crystalline warrior's voice held a note of fear. What are you doing to me? Nothing, Jack answered. You're doing it to yourself. Crystal structures get stressed under continuous motion. Microfractures form. Build up enough of them. Lord Crystal looked at his arms in horror. The small cracks were spreading, connecting into larger ones. His every movement now caused more damage to his crystalline form. No. The alien warrior backed away. This is not combat. This is hunting, Jack said, finally moving forward. And you're tired now. The human's first strike hit a spot where multiple cracks converge. Lord Crystal's perfect form shattered like glass, leaving him in a smaller, weakened state. His inner light flickered as he tried to maintain consciousness. I yield, Lord Crystal gasped, falling to his knees. His once magnificent form now looked like a broken mirror. The arena fell silent. No one had ever seen Lord Crystal defeated, let alone so completely. Head Commissioner Reed stood up from his viewing platform, all 4 hands trembling. Winner, Jack Stone. The announcement system declared into the silence. As medical teams rushed to help Lord Crystal, Jack walked calmly toward the exit. But this time, something was different. The other warriors didn't move away. They watched him with new eyes, suddenly understanding what they had witnessed. In the preparation chamber, Tix waited with a medical scanner. You're not even breathing hard, the alien said in disbelief. No need to be, Jack replied. Humans learned long ago that the hardest hits aren't always the best ones. Sometimes you just need patience. The council is in an uproar, Tix reported, checking messages on his tablet. They're saying you used illegal tactics. Jack shook his head. I used human tactics. The same ones that kept us alive on Earth for thousands of years. We studied our prey, learned their weaknesses, and used their strength against them. Lord Crystal was powerful, but he'd never had to move continuously for that long. He'd never faced an opponent who understood material stress. High above in the council chamber, Reed slammed all 4 fists on his table. This changes everything. If he reaches the final rounds. In his quarters that night, Jack reviewed recordings of his remaining opponents. His next matches would be even harder. But as he studied the holograms, a small smile crossed his face. They still hadn't learned the most important lesson about humans. They were just getting started. Jack Stone sat in the arena's vast library, surrounded by holographic screens showing historical tournament records. His next match was in 6 hours, but something had been bothering him since his victory over Lord Crystal. The pieces didn't quite fit. You're supposed to be resting, Tix said, entering with a tray of nutrients. The semifinals air. The alien stopped, seeing the intensity in Jack's eyes. "Look at this," Jack pointed to one of the screens. "Every 50 years, the arena invites new species, but only ones that have achieved space travel." He swiped to another screen. "Except Earth. We barely have colonies on Mars. Why invite us now?" Ticks shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps they saw potential. "No." Jack stood up, moving between the screens. "There's something else. The arena keeps perfect records, but there's a gap. A private council meeting from right before Earth's invitation. Can you access it?" Tix's large eyes darted nervously. "Those records are sealed. Only council members can." The alien paused, then sighed. "Give me a moment." The screen flickered, showing Head Commissioner Reed and the other council members in a heated discussion. The timestamp showed it was 3 months before Earth's invitation. "The outer systems are getting restless." Reed's voice crackled through the recording. "Too many emerging species questioning our authority. We need to make an example." Another council member spoke up. "The humans are perfect, strong enough to compete, but primitive enough to fail spectacularly. Their defeat will remind everyone why the established species lead the galaxy. And if they somehow do well?" Someone asked. Reed laughed. "Impossible. No unenhanced species has ever reached the final rounds. Their failure will reinforce the natural order." The recording ended. Jack stood motionless, his gray eyes hard as steel. "They invited us to fail," he said quietly, "to be a warning to other primitive species." Tix wrung his hands. "I'm sorry. I should have told you, but—" "No," Jack interrupted. "You showed me now. That's what matters." He turned to leave the library. "Where are you going?" Tix called after him. "Your match isn't for hours." "To the training area," Jack replied without turning. "I need to send a message." The training area fell silent as Jack entered. Ever since his victory over Lord Crystal, other warriors had been studying his techniques. Some were even practicing without their usual weapons, trying to understand human combat methods. Jack walked to the center of the room. Instead of his usual quiet training, he began to demonstrate. Every move, every technique that humans had developed over thousands of years of survival. He showed them how to read opponents, how to conserve energy, how to turn strength against itself. Warriors gathered around, their enhanced bodies and advanced weapons forgotten as they watched the human teach what their species had forgotten or never learned. "Why show us this?" a young warrior asked. "We're your competitors." "Because the council is wrong," Jack answered, continuing his demonstration. "Progress isn't just about technology or genetic enhancement. It's about understanding, adapting, learning from every species, no matter how primitive they seem." Word spread through the arena. More warriors came to watch, including some who had already lost in the tournament. Even Lord Crystal appeared, his crystalline form still showing cracks from their battle. In the council chamber, Reed watched the security feeds with growing alarm. What is he doing? This isn't how it was supposed to go. But he couldn't stop it. The human wasn't just competing anymore. He was teaching, showing the galaxy that strength comes in many forms. As Jack finally left the training area, Tix hurried alongside him. "The council will be furious. This could affect your matches." Jack smiled slightly. "Good, because I'm not just fighting for Earth anymore." He looked at the gathered warriors, some already practicing what he had shown them. "I'm fighting for every species they called primitive." The semifinals would begin soon, and now everyone would be watching. The arena's central chamber had never been so full. Every viewing platform was packed with spectators from hundreds of worlds. The air crackled with tension as they waited for the championship match to begin. Jack Stone stood in the preparation chamber, wrapping his hands with simple cloth strips. Around him, screens showed his opponent, the ultimate, undefeated champion for the last 150 years. The bioengineered warrior's body rippled with artificial muscles, his silver skin designed to deflect energy weapons. His enhancement systems cost more than a small starship, Tick said, watching the screens. Neural processors, adaptive healing, strength amplifiers. Doesn't matter, Jack interrupted quietly. All systems have limits. The announcement system boomed to life. The final match of the Galactic Arena tournament will now begin. Jack walked into the arena. Across the fighting floor, the Ultimate emerged from his chamber. The champion stood nearly 9 feet tall, his engineered form making Jack look small and fragile in comparison. In the highest viewing platform, Head Commissioner Reed leaned forward. "End this quickly," he whispered into his communicator. "Show everyone the price of primitive arrogance." The Ultimate's voice echoed across the arena. "I watched your matches, human. Clever tricks and endurance won't help you here. I don't tire. I don't feel pain. I am perfection." Jack said nothing. His gray eyes studied his opponent with the same calm focus he'd shown since his first match. "Begin." The Ultimate moved with impossible speed, covering the distance between them in a heartbeat. His first strike could have shattered steel, but Jack was already moving. Not retreating, but sliding inside the champion's reach. What? The Ultimate's enhanced reflexes couldn't track the human's fluid movement. Jack struck 3 precise points on the champion's body before dancing away. The crowd gasped. No one had ever gotten that close to the Ultimate, let alone landed hits. The champion's silver skin rippled as his healing system activated. "Impossible. Your strength should be nothing compared to." He stopped, realizing Jack had disappeared from in front of him. "We're not stronger," Jack's voice came from behind. "We're different." Another series of strikes, targeting joints and nerve clusters that even advanced engineering couldn't fully protect. The Ultimate roared, his body shifting into combat mode. Plates of armor emerged from under his skin. Energy crackled around his fists. Every enhancement system activated at once, turning him into a living weapon. But Jack kept moving. Each time the Ultimate attacked, the human was somewhere else. Each time the champion's systems adapted, Jack changed his strategy. "Stand still and fight." The Ultimate's voice held something new: frustration. "I am fighting," Jack replied, echoing his words from earlier matches. "I'm fighting like a human. We didn't become Earth's dominant species with strength alone. We did it by adapting, learning, surviving." Minutes passed. The Ultimate's movements began to show signs of strain. His enhancement systems struggled to keep up with constant adaptation. Warning lights flickered across his silver skin. "Impossible," Reed whispered from above. "He's overloading the Ultimate systems." Jack's voice carried across the arena. "Your engineers forgot something important. The more complex a system is, the more ways it can fail." The Ultimate charge, all his remaining power focused into one massive attack. Jack didn't dodge this time. He stepped forward, met the charge, and used the champion's own momentum to send him crashing into the arena floor. The Ultimate tried to stand, but his systems were failing. Smoke rose from his overheated enhancements. His perfect silver skin cracked, showing the machinery beneath. "I cannot lose." The champion's voice crackled with static. "You already have," Jack said quietly, "because you forgot that nature spent billions of years perfecting what you tried to build in a lab." The Ultimate collapsed, his systems completely overloaded. For a moment, complete silence filled the arena. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a young warrior started clapping. Others joined in. Soon, the entire arena thundered with applause. Human ingenuity had defeated artificial perfection, and the galaxy would never be the same. The arena buzzed with energy long after the final match. Warriors, spectators, and even council members gathered in small groups, discussing what they had witnessed. The defeat of the Ultimate had shaken the very foundation of their galactic society. In the medical bay, doctors examined Jack Stone with growing amazement. Despite fighting the most advanced warrior in the galaxy, he had only minor bruises. His breathing was already steady, his heart rate normal. "Remarkable," one doctor said. checking his instruments. Your body is already healing itself, without any enhancements. That's what humans do, Jack replied simply. We heal. We adapt. We survive. The door slid open, and Head Commissioner Reed entered with all four arms clasped behind his back. The usual arrogance in his silver eyes was gone, replaced by something close to respect. The council requests your presence, Reed said quietly. There are matters to discuss. Jack followed Reed to the council chamber. The massive room was filled with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. But this time, no one looked down at him with mockery. Jack Stone of Earth, Reed announced formally, you have done more than win a tournament. You have forced us to question everything we believed about progress and power. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Reed continued, we invited Earth to these games expecting to teach a lesson about the supremacy of advanced species. Instead, you taught us one. Not just me, Jack said, his voice carrying across the chamber. Every primitive species you look down on has this potential. Humans aren't special because we're stronger or faster. We're special because we never stop learning, never stop adapting. He turned to address the entire council. Your technology is amazing. Your genetic engineering is incredible. But you forgot something important. Natural evolution spent billions of years perfecting what you're trying to recreate. Maybe instead of looking down on less advanced species, you should be learning from them. A new voice spoke up from the crowd. We already are. Lord Crystal stepped forward, his crystalline form showing new patterns where it had healed. Since your matches, warriors have been studying human techniques, combining them with our own abilities. Others joined in, describing how they had already begun integrating human fighting styles with their advanced technology. The chamber filled with excited discussion about new possibilities. Reed raised his hands for silence. The Council has reached a decision. Earth will be granted full membership in the Galactic Alliance, with all rights and privileges. Furthermore, we are establishing a new training program, with you as its head instructor, to teach the combination of natural ability and advanced technology. Jack smiled slightly. I accept on one condition. He pointed to where Tix stood nervously at the back of the chamber. My assistant helped me understand this place, and showed me the truth when I needed to see it. Any species can attend these classes, no matter their level of advancement. Agreed, Reed declared. The news spread quickly through the galaxy. Humans hadn't just won the tournament. They had changed how the galaxy viewed strength and progress. Ships from dozens of worlds, some even more primitive than Earth, began arriving at the arena, eager to both learn and teach. Back in his quarters, Jack packed his few belongings. He had one more task before starting his new role. Going home first? Tix asked, helping him pack. Yes, Jack replied. Earth needs to know what happened here. Not just about the victory, but about what it means. The galaxy is bigger than we imagined, and now we have a chance to help shape its future. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. His victory had opened the door, but humanity's real challenge was just beginning. They would need to prove that the lessons of the arena, about strength, adaptation, and the value of learning from others, weren't just about combat. They were about survival, about progress, about finding a balance between the old and the new. And humans, as they had always done, would lead the way.